Hi. Sorry to interrupt. This is your captain? Our mission.
To chart the stars. Push the boundaries of what is known. And what is possible.
I'm standing on the surface of a comet.
I love this job.
These people, this crew, I believe we can do anything.
You wanted to seek out new life.
Go where the aliens are.
Your presence is blasphemy.
Let's talk about this. Find some comfort.
I think that went well.
Perhaps we should kiss.
That seems logical.
I love Ortega. Ortega is great.
Maybe we don't touch anything else. Just a suggestion.
The whole future hangs in the balance.
No one can know the future. One can only follow one's instincts.
You're the best of Starfleet.
Our ability to work together, that's our greatest strength. Let's show them what you got.
All right, welcome everybody to Earth 2's discussion of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. With me to do this episode, I know you heard one of us, but with me to do this episode is the Star Trek crew from our Discovery days, Patrick and Anthony. What's going on, guys?
The OG Earth 2 Star Trek crew.
Right.
Man, we finally get to start Star Trek. That doesn't piss me off week to week.
Oh, man.
Oh, wow.
I didn't think that was going to happen after Batard.
Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
You're a little more lukewarm on it, though, Mo. I can't tell if you're lukewarm on it or if you're just mad that people are liking this.
No, I'm happy that people. I'm happy that people. No. Hold on.
He's just missing Michael. He's just missing Michael. He likes.
Congratulations to everyone that wanted Star Trek to be something they've seen before. Congratulations to you.
Yeah.
Oh!
Yeah,
And-
no, that is what I wanted.
Well, but
I did want that.
that's literally what Patrick has been begging for since Discovery Season 2. I want something that I know I'm comfortable with, and congratulations to you guys.
No, I did. That's not what I said, though. I said I want a show that's about
that's the impression I'm
exploration and an ensemble crew.
Okay,
and
something that's
both those
comfortable to
things
you
are
and something
true
that
in
you've
this.
known before from every other Star Trek show that you've watched.
Oh,
Something
all
that's
right,
not new.
All right. Y'all
But
talking
that's
over
like-
each other. I can't
all
understand y'all. Like, come on.
No. It's a cool show.
Don't make me the moderate.
It's a cool show, and I'm enjoying more of Anson Mount's Pike. I said that from Star Trek Discovery Season 2. You know that I think when this was announced, I said this is who I want to see more of him. I didn't ever think that he would be one of my favorite captains after Lorca, but
He might be my favorite captain.
I think
Him and Cisco are the top.
hear me out.
for
I
me.
think it's Anson Mount's charisma that's just like killing it as Pike.
It's not just his charisma. I actually just like, every captain is different, and I like who he is. I like how he is different. I like how he leads a lot like I would like to imagine I try to lead. So
Interesting.
I appreciate him a lot.
They got to tone down his hair a little bit though. Like his hair keeps getting higher and higher, like in the 80s. I need that hair to low. I know it's not just jealousy because I ain't got no hair. Some people, but like his hair is almost the length of his head at this point.
I think it's a joke. You remember the old Power Girl joke, right? Does anyone know the Power Girl joke where she gets?
Oh yeah, she does. Yeah.
Until everyone was like, "Yo, whoa, what's really going on?" I think that's what's going on with Pike's hair. It's like someone is going to be like, "Wait a minute, you're trolling."
Right, well, let me give it.
I kind of liked him with a beard.
I don't know if y'all saw my overall like non-spoiler review on the first 5 episodes, but
we're just doing the first 2 episodes review
No.
spoilers,
Anthony,
right?
we know
right.
you've seen everything. Okay,
We know you're special.
Oh, wow, like oh my god, guys, I've seen all the episodes.
I wasn't lording. I was trying to say that I want to tell y'all how I felt about it so far. This is
Okay,
episode
go
2,
ahead,
right?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is a Star Trek that I hope can bring these 2 forces, these 2 opposite parties together. Like you have, like everybody in this show so far has a trauma-informed event that maps out the rest of their life, and that's for the Discovery people, for the Picard people. Y'all love that stuff. Ain't nothing wrong with that. They got some things in there, like y'all just went to therapy. I discovered some tools, so you got that too. But the other side, we're getting some exploration, we're getting some adventure, we're getting a team working together to solve a problem where everybody has a place and a unique specialty or something they add to the soup. We're getting a cool ship. We're getting like just new ways of thinking about things, and I think that. Somebody tried to call me out on another thing where I was like, well, what about the continuity? Small continuity changes, I'm okay with. You know what I mean?
Some of them are really good.
Some of them are really good if it enhances the story. The ones that tick me, you can't have all of a sudden in the prequel to be like, we're stuck on this planet and pull up. Oh, you forget all tricorders have an emergency transporter pad in them. Wait, what? Like you can't do that kind of thing. But having something where horrors on the ship or one of the things Vulcan and Spock and his love interest, even though in the original they said they kind of had a child arranged marriage and she was just meeting her again, like I'm
Isn't
for
she from
this.
she's from the animated show.
She's not the one from the fight with Kirk, the arranged marriage.
Oh, she is.
Mhm.
Oh, I thought that was
100%
animated.
that
Oh
one,
yeah.
Okay, so I think
Yep.
that's a little change and if they do a good job, they tell a good story, I'm here for it. The only blatantly one that's kind of messing me up is they went and had one of Khan's ancestors on the Enterprise. That's a little much for me. Doesn't really make a lot of sense to me so far. But
One of
that's what I'm
whose
here for.
ancestors? Khan's?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
The girl that takes over the
security officer.
Oh.
yeah, when she's like, we're gonna get attacked and all that, like that's
Oh.
you didn't see her name when she said her whole name out.
I didn't notice her name, but
Okay.
that's cool. I mean, that's interesting. I don't know, maybe you don't like it, but I didn't even notice that. I mean, it was just her backstory with the Zorn or whatever that I was paying attention to.
But my overall point is that I think that I hope that this is the show that can show how we can heal some franchises. You know what I mean? Like, because there's some rifts in these franchises that we loved.
So I have like a slightly different take. That Mo might like a little bit more. Maybe. I don't know. And that is that I think if this show had come first, people would be more open to these other shows that are doing things, as Mo said, very different from previous Star Treks, right? Because they would kind of have what they think of as Star Trek. And really, I almost wish it was a reverse, right? Like Discovery and some of these shows launched out of this show. And the reason is because Star Trek fans, I don't think they recognize the fact that we missed, like you say I just wanted more of the same, but I really missed Star Trek. Like I just missed it. Do you know what I mean? And so when a new Star Trek was coming back, I was so excited because I missed it. Like I just plain missed Star Trek. And so when Discovery was so dramatically different, and in my opinion, a little bit, and I know you might disagree, Mo, a little bit bait and switched as far as presenting itself initially as more like a traditional Star Trek. and then went a very different direction. And I'm not saying that was a bad direction necessarily, but it was a different direction. I think you can agree with that, right? Than previous Star Treks. And so then it left me still feeling that like hole of like, I miss Star Trek. Like I miss it. And then even when Picard was announced, I was like, this isn't going to fill that hole either, because it's going to be very character based. It's going to be built around a character, right?
And then when it wasn't, but
Well, anyways, like it's not. I knew, like I understood even from the title, at least with that one, what that one was going to be about, right? And so the closest we got, honestly, was Lower Decks. Was very ensemble and pretty Star Trek-y. But this show, yes, it is definitely more like all the prior Star Treks, but also it definitely fills that hole that I've felt in TV for a long time of like, I just miss Star Trek, man. And it feels like it's back. And yes, they are updating and modernizing certain things, but in other ways, you're right. They are following closer to the style of which prior Star Treks followed. And that's just nice. Like, it's nice to have that. And if I had that and felt kind of that, and then they spin off into Discovery, then they spin off into Picard, then they spin off into a comedy show, that then they spin off into a kids show, I might be more like, yeah, cool. I still have Star Trek as I love it, and there are these other things for other styles of entertainment. But it's like they got the cart before the horse, right? And so that's how I feel.
I just missed the hope of old Star Trek. I missed being like hopeful of what the future. And I think writers for the other shows besides Lower Decks were all about breaking things down or making things more like we are now versus what we could be in the future. So like Picard Patrick Stewart wanted to talk about Brexit, wanted to talk about like Donald Trump, and wanted to talk about those things. So they made the Federation in that time mirror those things. And some people love them. Some people love that. And I think Discovery also wanted to show us a different, not a utopia Star Trek that we're used to, with these fringe things happening outside. Like DS9 could deal with certain things that TNG didn't deal with because they were in that utopian bubble. And so I feel like those weren't futures I wanted to live in. The Picard future wasn't what I wanted to live in. The Discovery future was not what I wanted to live in. But this is a future. And it doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean there's not troubles or challenges or things like that. But the hope is important to me. And I thought that was always a distinction in Star Trek, where other sci-fis went dystopian or apocalyptic, or still that we were the same people just with more destructive weapons. Star Trek gave me hope, and I see the sparks of that in this. That's my monologue. But
all right, and like I said, I open saying congratulations to you guys, because this is what you wanted. And my thing is, right, okay, I hope this gives you guys what you need moving forward. And so everyone, but this is I don't have any beef with the show, because I can appreciate it for the fact that you guys have this show now. Yeah. I can watch Discovery and Picard and love those shows and whatever, and not necessarily like you guys aren't probably going to hate watch or just because you need the
I stopped watching Discovery because I didn't like that I was becoming a hate watch.
And that's perfect. But I'm saying, like, I'm happy for you guys, and everyone has something that they can love, right? Lower Decks wasn't live action, so it didn't fill that hole completely. But it made you guys happy, but it didn't fill the hole completely. Now everybody has their very own Star Trek show. Yeah. I'm just very okay on it, Yeah. That's just it.
Cool. Yay! Can we all be friends again now?
Yeah, of course. It looks cool.
Nothing could be better evidence than the three of us back on a cast together.
Oh my gosh! Did Star Trek bring us back together?
It broke us apart and brought us together.
You would have thought it would be Star Wars or Mandalorian or something, right? But it wasn't any of those.
I want to say, did you guys read that thing that Steven sent?
I don't ever want to ever look. I saw it and I'm like, "Wow, how dare you?" And I'm like, you know what? Just put it off to the side.
What were you talking
That
That
is
about?
very.
Steven said?
Oh wait, we're not talking about the Oh, I thought you were talking because I said Star Trek or Star Wars, and I thought you were
Oh,
bringing
no,
up
no, no.
the
I
KK
wanted
thing.
to share this because this is a friend of ours, a guy in one
Oh,
of the chats, and he said he had watched it and he was so happy. And he's a huge Star Trek fan. And he
mhm.
said, episodic, the wonder of space exploration, the values of the Federation and the Starfleet, the normal relationships on a starship, moral dilemmas, and aliens with completely different value sets. Like, he really like laid it out. And he said solving problems with science and grit and that beautiful ship.
That
I
is
was
so
not
well
expecting
put.
So,
this. Very pleasantly surprised. Right?
so Discovery.
This is no
No.
for Strange New Worlds. So
Oh, okay. Because I thought that's
Uh,
what
I just
happened in
thought he did a
Discovery
really
last
good
season.
job of
But okay,
succinctly kind of
that's
laying out.
well put. That is
Yeah,
really well put. Like
yeah,
that's how I
again,
feel
like I said, snore.
yeah.
in better words.
But no. But again, congratulations though, and I'm happy for you guys. You guys feel really excited about this, so I'm not gonna say anything on this episode because I would hate to be the one to bring it up.
Well, no, I mean, I'm sure we'll have
You listen.
critical
You
stuff.
listen to us. You listen. I know you listen to me. Talking
Oh
about your
man,
beloved Discovery
did
and,
I?
and your trash Picard show. So your non-cynical. It's not a Picard show, the
I'll
Patrick
say
Stewart
one
show.
thing on Picard. I'll say one thing. I actually like the backstory they gave Picard. I just don't like how they gave it or they presented it. So,
I
anyways,
love the ending of that season.
Okay, so
I would admit I slept through episode 9, but
yeah,
episode
you
10.
got Mr. I love it, but then
Listen.
you
I did.
for half the
I slept.
episodes, not one episode, but like half the episodes, you're like, I'm literally sleeping through this episode, Patrick.
Yeah, I slept through episode 9, and
None
I
of it
woke
made
up.
sense, and none of it meant anything. Like the whole look. You could have. You know what they should have done? Look, Picard could have been a series of shorts between the other Star Treks because really,
Yeah.
all the season was that you really cared about was Q and Picard, right? Not even Guinan.
Are they
'cause
still
that wasn't-
doing Star Trek shorts? I really like the shorts.
No,
I don't think so, but you could have done this in a short. You didn't have a budget. They didn't really use a budget for this.
I saw that even Patrick Stewart thought they made a lot of mistakes on this season, and he's hoping to fix them in the next season. So
They
Fantastic.
said
even
it about
he-
last season. They said it
even
about last
he-
season.
even he recognized that they made mistakes in this season. So
Okay,
But I
so
will say
Strange
that
New Worlds.
last- But wait, I will say
So-
that last thing between Q and Picard that did make me, you know.
yeah, that's
I don't
what
know.
I think that's what Mo is talking about too, and I agree. That
Yeah.
scene was a very
That
good scene.
hit. That
Yeah,
that was-
agreed.
wow,
Agreed.
Q, really? Yeah, that.
All right,
hit in the
so
face.
let's
All
get
right,
to
so
Strange New Worlds. So
episode 1.
episode 1, we open on a
Oh, I
farm
know.
or something.
I'm Patrick is so ready for this. Go ahead, man.
I am. I'm ready. We open on a farm. This is great
This is your show.
because the last time we see Pike in the pilot for Star Trek in the cage, all he wants to do is quit his job and go raise horses. Like he literally, like in every scene, is complaining because I don't know. Do you guys remember this? Like right
Mhm.
before that episode, basically a bunch of crew members died, and he's super bummed about it. He's like depressed about it, right? And he wants to quit. He doesn't want to be captain anymore, and he wants to go home and just raise horses. And so
Really?
we open with him now having gone through the events of Discovery, right, that take place after the cage. And what is he doing? He's at home raising horses, and he's not sure he wants to be captain again. So one of the things I like about that they have carried over that was unique to Pike. Now, Pike in the cage has an issue, and that issue is he literally says, I don't think women should be on the bridge of the starship. So that's kind of problematic. But unrelated to that, like the other thing is that he is a captain that's actually like grieving people dying on his ship, whereas like even Picard, it's like, oh, we lost an entire level, oh well. Like everybody's kind of like, that sucks, move on. He like had 3 people die on his ship, and he was like ready to quit being captain. And I think they really they like honed in on that element of his character, and I think they bring that out a lot here. And I think that's one reason we're starting with him where he is because he basically says 3 people die on my ship, I'm just going to go home and raise horses the rest of my life. And now we open with him doing what? looking like he's
Wait.
probably just going to raise horses for the rest of his life.
Right. So you're saying the 3 people who died on the original 70s?
Yeah, the
show.
the
on the
very
old show,
very
yeah.
first pilot of Star Trek. Yep.
I think it makes sense because every captain we've seen had a different leadership style, and a different way and I think Pike is he really. People say that Michael befriended her crew, but like Pike is really personable. Like he's really personable. He gets to know everything about you and where you're from, and like if you die, he can write the letter without doing any more research on who you are and stuff like that. And I feel like a lot of the other captains, except for maybe Janeway and Michael, really don't have. They like, oh, did they have any family? No, Pike already knows how many family members you have. If you have any siblings? If you know what I mean? Like he's that.
Think about scenes like in Next Generation where somebody who wasn't supposed to be on the bridge shows up on the bridge. Like I'm clearly thinking of the Wesley scene, but there's a few other scenes where basically people that are members of the crew are not where they're supposed to be, and Picard like bristles at them being on the bridge, right?
Yeah.
It's not just that he doesn't know who they are; he like literally bristles at them not being in their place, essentially. And
I think Picard led by almost like an example. Like I'm unshakable. I'm doing this.
Yep.
Like we're getting perfection. He cared about lives. Like I think that was
no, absolutely. But he keeps a distance, right?
And I think that's a very British naval tradition of like I eat by myself. Like it was one scene where I remember he had his feet up on the desk reading something. It might have been a book. It might have been something like that. And the thing chimed, and he was like, took his feet off the desk, put the book away, straightened himself up, was like, "Come in." Pike would have kept like, "Oh yeah,
exactly.
you read this book," and it's neither one is better than the other. It's just a different style.
Yeah.
I think,
but also I think Pike is one of the nice things about Pike is he is of all the styles, he is at a dramatic contrast from Kirk, who's going to take over this same ship and this same crew. Like they are almost polar opposite. Captains.
But I also like that it looks like that Kirk is going to benefit from the crew and the style that Pike builds. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. And the connection is there. But I also like that you've given a sense of pathos to Pike because he knows in a decade's time he's not just die. Like I think we can get around ourselves that we're going to end someday, right?
Correct.
But to say if we knew that 5 years from now, if you continue to do something that you loved or your calling, or you continue to do whatever, you're going to end up confined in your body. You know what I mean? Like that's a whole different level of like terror. At least for me. And so him running away from space, and we've seen this before, but he's running away from space. He's running away from the future because if he doesn't go back out there, he doesn't end up in that cage of his own flesh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think it gives him a sense of what is he going to do? Do you follow your calling? Do you roll the dice? Do you think you can change history if you know it? And do you do it, or do you do it anyway?
Yeah. Yep. No, I think it's interesting. Well, it's clearly a theme they're laying into a bunch of the crew too. Like they're kind of playing into this. I mean, even with Sam Kirk showing up in the crew, which he only shows up at the end of episode 2, but we know he dies too, right?
Yeah.
So like they are setting the scene for a lot of these characters. They're setting the scene for a lot of known fate. They're actually, because this is a prequel era, they're actually using that as a strength rather than a weakness, which is really interesting. Where they're like, you will know the fate of these characters. You know what's going to happen between Spock and his fiance. You know what's going to happen with Pike. You know what's going to happen with each of these characters. But we're going to like play into that and kind of play with like, what does destiny, like if it's a known destiny, if it's a known fate, even for you, the audience, like, is this life still a life of value worth observing and seeing? And so I don't know. I think there's a really interesting way in which they are playing into the prequel thing, which is a trap that I know Kurtzman felt when he took over Discovery. I mean, that's why he pushed it to the future, is he felt really trapped by that prequelness. And I think what has happened is he has had the time now to like reflect essentially on what are ways in which you can actually use being a prequel as a strength rather than a weakness. And I think they're doing, I think they're just doing a better job thinking through that. And in a way, Discovery helped a lot with all the complaining of continuity and everything, right? Because they kind of, unfortunately for Discovery, took the brunt of all that, people being upset about that. So
Well,
that now with this show, you know, people aren't really. Whereas with Discovery, when they first showed up on the Enterprise, people like complained what the bridge looked like and stuff. You know, and now
well,
nobody like cares because now I think it's just understood that this is a slightly, you know, revised, if you will, version.
well reports from staff are that when writers brought up continued errors, they were shut down immediately. Like they didn't care about continuity,
Mhm.
and they thought that the audience wouldn't care. And I think that they didn't really understand how important.
Well, that was probably the original producer director team that was like abusive of the staff, which may be another
Yeah,
thing for Discovery to always keep in mind is like those first 2 seasons, this first season and a half, all the writers were working in a toxic environment. So
yeah, could be. And so if and I think there's new writers on this show too. Like I don't think
yeah,
it's the same.
there's a lot of new writers.
And I
There's
think there's
old producers, but new writers, directors, it looks like for the most part.
and I think you can tell just by the camera work, and I think you can tell by just the stories. Like I said, I think there's a lot of new like I'm telling you, Picard and Discovery is like people went to therapy and they're just bringing their therapy experiences into Trek because Picard and Discovery is about feelings, right? Feelings conquer the problems. Feelings do this. Feelings shut down all the warp technology in the universe or whatever, and that works for a lot of people. Um, but I like more stories that where there's a more of a balance between humanity, science, and like Steven said, the grit to explore and see new
You
things.
you could say the theme of the first 2 episodes at least is about overcoming your feelings, right?
Yeah,
So first you have this society where the feeling of hatred for each other, right, is one of self-destruction. Like that's raw anger, bitterness, feelings, and basically Pike has to, you know, basically reveal himself as an alien and call them out and try and, I don't know. Well, I mean, he definitely appeals to their feelings of like fear, essentially, of like you're about to wipe yourselves out. Like, you do you if that's okay with you, but like, but at the same time, he's also making a call to them to like think about the consequences of their actions and think about, you know, is this really what you want? And appeal to that more cognitive nature of like, you know, think this through, guys, before this escalates. And then obviously Hora in the second episode, like initially she is feeling like she has like hopeless essentially. She is feeling like she is overwhelmed and incapable, and it's actually the logical unfeeling character Spock that is able to push her to like overcome those feelings and basically overcome the obstacle. So yeah, I think there's an interesting thing there.
What was she feeling?
She
Was
felt doubt. Doubt is probably the thing she felt the most,
she
and doubt was overcoming her,
okay?
overwhelming her. You don't think
And
so?
no.
Interesting.
I think it's perfectly okay for someone who isn't. Yeah, she had feelings, but I think it's perfectly okay for someone to question. You know, like, is this what I? Is this is I'm good at this, but is this really what I want to do? And I
No,
think
that's not
and I
the
think she
part
was
I'm talking about.
questioning.
What I'm talking about is when she's actually trying to decipher the code, right? She is
Oh,
definitely
and
feeling
she needed Spock
hopelessness
to
and
tell
doubt,
her.
and this idea that their lives are all counting on her ability to figure something out, and she is doubting her own ability to do it. Like she doubts that she can in fact figure this out and solve this problem, right?
Okay,
I think I think I agree, but I think we're jumping around and we're not
Yep.
going through the episodes.
Sorry, that's my
And
fault.
no. I'm one that likes to jump around a lot. In my
no, I think
conversations,
Patrick is
but
just super excited, and he's just let's talk about all of it at once. But no, let's go through the episode, Patrick. Come on.
All right, sorry. So we got Captain Pike on a planet on Earth riding horses. and
Looking
his
majestic.
former captain and now an admiral shows up and is like, "Hey, Pike, like number one has been kidnapped or has a whole problem on this other planet. You need to go save her." And Pike is like, "You don't want me," and the admiral's like, "You got me confused. You don't want you," or whatever he says. And then Pike jumps on the ship, and we have a cool launch sequence for the ship. We also have Spock showing up, and just a general introduction of the crew. Like they set the tone very early, like almost the moment we're on the ship, that this is going to be an ensemble show. We get introductions essentially to many parts of the crew. Some of the crew haven't shown up yet, but many parts of the crew. And then we also get kind of a check-in with where Spock is. What's interesting, I think, about this episode is this episode may be the only episode that like really ties into Discovery and requires some knowledge of what happened on Discovery. It feels like after this episode, it's like they deal with those things in this episode and they're like, okay, now we're going to move on. But I don't know, but Anthony's seen more episodes than I, but it just feels like this is the one episode where they're trying to make sure they tuck out of Discovery and kind of tie some of those loose ends that were left from Discovery.
I think you're right. The lines that they dropped for Discovery were very expositional. Like, like this is what happened, da da da. And I think that was I think they were appealing to Discovery fans to say, no, we're not writing Discovery out. Discovery happened.
Yeah. Which I think is good. I think that's good they're doing that.
Yeah, but then it was also like, all right, well now we've done that, moving on.
Yeah.
I think I don't want to talk about the future episodes, but like, yeah, I think you're right. That's just out there.
So I don't know. So that's kind of, what do you guys think about, I guess up to us launching out of the base and introductions to the crew and all that kind of stuff? We've kind of already been introduced to this crew on Discovery, but it's still like,
is this the exact same crew from Discovery?
I'm pretty sure Ortega was there before, and I
don't
really.
I don't think so. I don't think Uhura wasn't there.
I don't think Uhura wasn't there, but they explain that. Like, she literally is. We see a scene of her arriving, to her post as a new person, and
the doctor wasn't there.
He greets her. Well, do we ever even go down to sick bay in Discovery?
We never do. So I guess, but so Bridge Crew.
Bridge Crew looked like.
I think I don't quite remember it, but I think it was just the big three.
Okay.
And then they had a different security officer, right?
Yeah.
What's her name?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I liked where they got the introductions. We got the plucky pilot, who's that's the stereotypical sci-fi, the best pilot there ever is.
Ortega's my favorite so far. I like Ortega.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. But a lot of personality. The doctor, Nurse Chapel, I like that they kept her Nurse Chapel, even though they gave her like a bunch of different degrees, because being a nurse is not easy. So I like that this year, and being a nurse on the exploratory flagship vessel of a galaxy-wide federation, or that's.
You're right. Ortega was not on Discovery. Sorry.
Spock sex life was a very interesting ad, because from what we knew before, Vulcans really didn't engage in casual sex all that often. So adding that,
it didn't look that casual to me.
Well,
I think they just wanted to go Ethan naked,
and I do not blame you. I do not blame y'all. That woman is hot. I have a thing for intelligent and passionate people. So, but I even like their interactions and their worries about whether their different duties and mindsets would clash, and could this be a functioning relationship with you off in deep space exploration? So now they got to write scenes where she's available to interact with him since he's on a ship and she's otherwhere else. So they made this a major plot point.
Yeah.
The doctor is interesting. I feel that this crew has more star power, more that thing that will make me remember who these characters are and care what they're doing than we've seen in a decade.
But so only because they're being allowed. Like, I would so here's the thing. I think that the cast for some of the other shows are equally good, but they aren't allowed to outshine the star in any way. Does it make sense? They're always planets orbiting the sun of whoever the star of that show is.
So we know what we're talking about. I think when Discovery first came on, I was like, oh, look, is that an android? Is it a cyborg on the ship? Oh, man, she looks interesting. Oh, man, so-and-so. I was all about, what's the name? With I was like, yeah. All these different characters were like, but then we didn't know them. And it was like, it was hard to remember their names after a while. You know what I mean? It was hard to even.
Well, and it would be frustrating, right? Because we would get some of their story, but it would always be like 10 minutes of the episode to like 50 minutes of the episode being about whatever Michael or whoever was doing, right?
It was
And you'd
usually
be
about to
excited.
die.
You'd be like, oh, cool, we get to learn about, this character.
And then that character dies.
So yeah, that's true.
But I would even say they're better than Picard. They tried to spend a lot of time with Picard characters, but I mean they're
Picard was more ensemble for sure.
But
like,
which is
Raffi interesting,
probably,
right? The one that's called Picard, like, is literally named after a character, is more ensemble. If it feels like
the problem is that the ensemble doesn't have that it thing. Raffi is literally the worst main character. I mean, the worst major character of any Star Wars cast.
Star Trek.
Star Trek. Sorry, Star Trek character. It
grates on you. I know.
I
know it grates on you.
But we're on this one.
I mean, Neelix grated on me, so.
Neelix didn't grow on you. Neelix grew on me.
He grated on me so hard.
But everything doesn't work for everybody, right? Everything doesn't work for everybody, and like, to me, DS9 is the best written Star Trek to date, and a lot of fans it did not click with them. It did not click with them, and that is okay. This cast, though, I feel like you can pick a favorite. But by the end of this season, you're gonna have your favorite. You know what I mean? You're gonna have your, you have a lot of standouts. Like on Enterprise, like, you had to watch Enterprise to get a standout. I felt in this one, everybody has these personalities, everybody has these drives, everybody has these different perspectives and how they'll look.
Why you bring up Enterprise? You just going after Mo hard. Sorry.
I was giving it a compliment.
No.
It wasn't passive aggressive. I told you, man.
We miss you, Mo.
But yeah, this felt like a cast that I want to get to know more about. But like I said, and if you
Mo, do you have a favorite?
Pike,
yeah, fair enough.
Mo's all about that captain. I think as long as the captain's all right, Mo's all right. Like, if Mo would serve,
He
on that
still talks
ship,
about how much he misses Lorca. So
yeah, I think Mo would serve on Lorca's ship.
I would 100%. I said that. I would give him.
You'd be like, Captain, you would turn this light off real quick.
Facts.
We can smoke in the dark.
But no. I also I think why Pike especially is because I just loved Anson Mount from like a lot of things that he's done. Hell on Wheels. Hell on Wheels.
Same character from Hell on Wheels.
Yes, he is.
I loved Hell on Wheels. Oh my gosh.
I've loved, so Anson Mount has really been one of my favorite guys, and he even did that Bullet to the Head movie with Stallone, stupid ass movie, but I still loved him. He did the one with Jason Statham, I'm like, okay, so, but I've liked Anson Mount, and I think he just has something, like, hear me out, you guys are gonna jump my head, but he reminds me of. There's a cross between this Archer, this very like Archer, and then there's that, I love my crew type thing he has going on, especially if we get to episode 2, what he does. I think there's just, so the captains that I really like Archer.
But how do you explain Lorca?
Yeah.
Okay. Hold on. Yeah. So the thing is,
because Lorca wins. Lorca for the most part won, and I think Mo's behind the winning team.
Yes,
we're gonna win. I'm gonna survive this war. I'm gonna be on his ship.
And I personally think Lorca shouldn't have died. I
agree.
Yeah,
Lorca's probably the best villain they had.
There was more.
Lorca could have been Discovery's Q, essentially. I mean, they would have had to figure it out, but he could have been that character.
He could have been the next Gul Dukat, really. I really think he could have been the next Gul Dukat, and that's just my opinion. I think Gul Dukat is the best Star Trek villain we've had. Like,
Yeah, he could have been the series villain, right? That doesn't show up too often, but when he shows up, you're like, oh,
Yeah, he fuck shit up.
shit's
But
gonna go
yeah,
down.
so Pike honestly just and Chapel. I'm very interested to see where they go with
I
it.
like where they're going because
you're very
Chapel.
interested, huh, Mo?
Well, but
Hey,
Chapel
man.
in the original Star Trek is essentially like eye candy. Like she's in that show for eye candy.
I mean,
And I feel like in this show,
have you seen the one on this show?
I don't know. I feel like they're doing a lot more with her.
This bitch when it comes to Nurse Chapel. Like, is what he wants.
I feel like I like how she's like comedy. She's like the comedic relief a little bit, and I like it for her. I think it's great. I like.
She's still what she is.
She's comfortable with herself. You can tell her character is comfortable
Yes.
who she is and where she's at, and
Yeah.
it comes across in her dialogue and her actions and her mannerisms. And she's having a fun time.
Yeah, right.
having-
Exactly. She's like thrilled to be on a starship, essentially.
Yeah. Like, come on, let's go. I don't know what this is gonna do, but come on. and that enjoyment, I think this actress is probably having a ball. Like,
Yep.
I get a lot of Jadzia Dax in her. You know what I mean? And like just a love of life. And I makes me love watching what she's doing.
Yeah.
That's
and can I say
all
one
of
thing?
it?
I think this show can fix a lot of stuff in the originals because there's a lot of problematic things in the
Oh,
original
my.
series.
Yeah, for sure.
And even most of the crew is we talk about Discovery, right? We talk about Discovery, but in the original Star Trek, a lot of the crew was underused. If you weren't the big three and maybe Scotty, you really didn't do much. You really didn't do much.
Yeah, that's
And
fair.
Bones got
Bones is part of the
Bones
big
got
three.
some-
big three.
Oh, big three.
Yeah.
Right.
Kirk,
Spock.
Spock, Bones.
Bones.
Yeah.
But everybody else didn't really do much, right? And that was how TV was at the time.
Yeah.
And their
Uhura was
their
there to
charisma-
get kissed. Yeah.
It is what it was. One episode where Uhura's mind got erased, and they never give it back to her. It's the next time she shows up is good. You did no explanation. Like they said we can't give her mind back. That's how it ended. I don't know what what was happening there, but okay. So you know what, people, we have a lot to unpack and a lot of feelings when it comes to this. So I know we haven't gotten past the intro, the third of the.
Well,
the
but
first episode.
we're using the intro to really talk about the whole crew and the cast.
Yeah.
So, all right, so we can move on. So they arrive. Since apparently Mo wants me to tell the story, you can tell the second one. So we arrive at the planet, right? And we get to the starship, and it's one of those dinky little. I like how they decided those ships only need a crew of 3, because suddenly that makes sense why those ships are so dinky and small. So we get, and there's like one of those dinky ships that only has one nacelle, so that if that nacelle goes out, you're screwed. It ain't no AAA. All right, so they're there and they can't figure out what's going on, and they have I think, all right, so I'm curious what Anthony thinks about this moment, because there's this moment where basically on a hunch the new security officer says raise the shields, and Spock is like, we don't need to raise the shields. What do you think of that moment, Anthony?
So this moment had me scared, right? Because there's a trope where you have to make a new character make an old character look foolish or weak or whatever, so that you like, oh, this new character is awesome. And one, it doesn't really work a lot, and it's lazy. It's just lazy. Just let a character be good at stuff. And I think she does it twice to Spock in this episode. So it didn't make me go, oh, it made me like, oh, I'm really cautious about this. But I was willing to give it a bit of a doubt, because it seemed like at the time that maybe when people go through dangerous situations, like life or death situations, they often gain a perspective of awareness that there's always going to be an attack. Like there's an instinct on an attack. And so I think I think really this is Discovery's thing. Remember when that guy from the Enterprise was like, oh, I've been plotting courses through asteroids since and he got hit with an asteroid, right? Because he disagreed with Burn. It was like, it felt like that. But Again, I'm willing to give the character a bit of a doubt. So yeah, it made me worried. It's still, her character still makes me worried, but I think there's enough of balance that I give it a chance.
I knew
So-
that moment made you worry. Like that's why I asked that
Quick
question. But I actually
I
thought it
I
worked out.
felt it paid off.
Yeah,
at
I
the
felt it
end.
worked out. And here's why. And I think this is kind of what Anthony was saying towards the end, which is why I think it eventually worked for him. I think that, especially as we learn her story,
Mm-hmm.
she's going to be a fun foil for Spock that I don't think needs to be better than Spock. And what I mean by that is, well, what I'd like to see is Spock to sometimes outdo her and her outdo Spock sometimes, because I think she's going to be better at stuff that needs a certain fast instinct sort of reaction, right? And that's what she does here. It's all on instinct, and she's like, just do it. And what's the harm of doing it, really? Whereas Spock is definitely more methodical and like, wait, we need to look at all the kind of evidence. And I think that hopefully we'll see instances where those are reversed, where Spock is like, no, hang on, like your instincts, especially because you came out of this trauma, are like overtaking your logic, and logic is like what we need in this particular situation, right? And so I think they're gonna, I think they could be a really interesting dynamic between the two of them both being on the bridge.
And my knowledge of the future doesn't play what I'm about to say, because I think that's a great idea, and I didn't think about it until you just said it. I would love him to appreciate her instinct, and him or her appreciate his logic in a way at some point.
Yep.
As they get down the line, and if she dies, if she, yeah, I'm a time traveler. If she dies,
that was actually a dope line. Whoa. No, but I know you have seen it, but I don't think they're gonna do that. I'm with Anthony.
I feel like they're already doing it. I feel like I've already seen it come up a few times, so that's why. Because we see it in episode 2 a little bit, where she's lost it. Episode 2, she almost just gives up.
What did you think about the SEMO? Were you about to say that? What you thought about it?
Yeah, I don't think. Well, I thought it. We understood why she did. Okay, I'm on the why she did what she did aspect of it, right? I thought, she has this instinct because she's, been through trauma, and boom, that's where that came from. That's what I think where it came from, and I think it paid off when she was talking to Pike at the end, and she, so that's where I'm at with this. I don't think she's going to be going. She's going to be that character, with I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think Spock is going to go. I think that dynamic you're looking for with Spock and someone else is going to be with Spock is going to be with someone else. Actually, I don't think it's going to be with her.
Maybe Nurse Chapel, since we know in the original series there was always a thing.
They're already setting that up. It feels like in the first 2 episodes. So.
You know what? Another thing I had a thought is that she said some things that like Worf would say, but Picard and Riker would be like, "Shut up, Worf." and so if this was the next generation, the Enterprise got blown up because because everybody praises TNG, but Worf didn't really become Worf, like a really fully character with DS9. Worf was really just there. We should raise our shields. Shut up, Worf. We're not raising our shields. It's a peace mission. We should attack, Captain. And it just worked out for a plot a lot of times because Worf had some points, but that's just my opinion. Y'all might disagree, but I felt like that was a line Worf would have gave, like, "Hey, raise your shields." Shut up, Worf.
It could have also, and again, it could have also been plot on this episode as well. That whole thing.
Yeah.
I don't think that thread that you're looking at, Patrick. I think that's just something you wanted to see. Excuse me for saying that, but I don't think they're gonna pull that thread a lot or at all. They're going to give that dynamic.
When we get to episode 2, I'll make an argument for why they've already pulled it. But go on. All right.
Well, me?
So we go down to the planet. We kind of get a sense of who our away team is probably going to be pretty often on this show too, which is, I hope, they always mix them up a little bit, but I think we get a good sense that who our away team is going to be, which is, that's important because like it is different from show to show. Like Picard is rarely on the away team in TNG. Well, especially early on, they start using him more and more on away teams. And they also get this realization that they have built a bomb, a warp bomb, rather than a warp engine, and that this is much lower tech level than is supposed to understand warp technology, and that this is a big problem because basically a civilization that hasn't gone through the steps that essentially essentially the steps of, I don't know what to call it, like
Creating a
Progress,
warp-
evolution,
Yeah,
progress,
yeah.
evolution, right? Exactly. That has the power of warp technology could potentially be dangerous. That's why things are kind of set up the way they are. And with the Prime Directive, though it's not called the Prime Directive yet, it's called, what is it, General Order 1 or whatever.
which I
They-
like. I like now. That
Yeah.
grew on me.
Yep. So they go down to the planet, and they need to break in and save number one and the other two crew members of this dinky raft of a ship. Not quite a runabout. And they also, there's the whole scene of them getting their injections to transform. And we learn a little bit more about our security officer person, that she doesn't want anesthesia, which mad respect to her, because I have a similar mental block myself, which is sometimes causes problems. So she goes through that transformation. They kind of set up the gun on the wall that Spock's DNA may not work as well with this, new tech down on the planet.
The polymorph juice.
The polymorph juice, yep. Down on the planet, which is really, I love how excited Nurse Chapel is to try this thing out that she's not even totally sure is going to work. They go down to the planet. She's got a little bit of a mad scientist in her, so that could be interesting.
You're right.
And what's her name? Is it Lan? Is that the name of the character?
Security.
Which one?
Security officer.
Number one? Oh,
well, yeah, because they do. They call her number one a lot in this episode. So I think it's
number one.
I think the last name is Sung. So
yeah, I think okay. So anyways, she plays like she's hurt. Then they grab a bunch of dudes, steal their
Noonan's son.
land. So she plays like she's hurt. They steal dudes' clothes, like classic old school film trope. Then they have the fun idea of beaming these dudes up, so there's no bodies laying around. Ultimate Metal Gear Solid style. And then they break in. There's a whole kind of tense, the bomb is ticking away moment where Spock's DNA is about to switch back, although they also at the same moment have the two dudes that they beamed up to the ship escape and running around. So there's kind of a fun antics moment where they need to get two problems solved at once. And then they, at the very last minute, are able to, probably to Anthony's annoyance, beam the stuff into Spock's body so that he is able to pass the little test and not transform, although it looks like it's not a very good beam in because it's only like a few minutes later before he transforms anyways. And they capture, there's a really cute moment with Uhura on the elevator with the alien dude, and she's talking about his sports teams and stuff like that, and we just get a real nice little sense. Now, one thing I noticed, there was a contrast between this episode and the next episode, and it's just probably because they didn't want to go into it, is she seems like really excited about this job in this episode. And in the next episode, we learn she's not sure she's excited about this job. So there is an interesting discontinuity there. I just noticed the second time I watched the first episode where she's like, because she has all these lines like, that's so cool, and stuff like that. So anyways, then they work their way down. There's a funny scene where Spock's ear is twitching really crazy, and there's a girl trying to flirt with Pike, but she gets freaked out by the ear thing. And what?
It's the hair.
Oh yeah. It's the hair. Yep. They get all the way down and they rescue number one, and number one is clearly excited to see them. I think she has some funny lines, but I don't remember what they were. And then Spock says something about how it's very advantageous that the hall is completely clear. And number one says, "Why are you jinxing us?" And Spock says something about like jinxes are not logical. And then a bunch of people show up and things go bad. And then what's the movie that he's watching at the very beginning? Brave New World, right? Is it Brave New World? At the very beginning of the movie, the old black and white alien movie. Anyways, in that movie,
the man that came to Earth, or the man
yeah.
that,
Anyways, in that movie, basically the aliens,
the day the Earth
the
stood
Earth
still.
stood
yeah,
still.
in that movie, the aliens basically say, "Hey, we're aliens. You guys are about to blow each other up. Stop doing that." And so clearly that's the inspiration for this moment where Pike realizes, you know what, because they realize that Discovery is actually, when they warped with Discovery, it created such a huge, I don't know, warp system that these alien people with like 24th century tech were able to look and analyze, probably with their own version of the Hubble telescope, at what happened in this moment and reverse engineer some basic warp technology, which they decide to build a bomb with. And so now Pike, being Pike, suddenly feels responsible, whereas before he didn't give a crap about these people blowing each other up necessarily. Now he feels responsible for all the death that's about to happen. And what we know about Pike, even when we talked about earlier, where he was feeling sad about just 3 crew members dying, can't stand that idea of people dying that he has some responsibility or culpability in. So he decides, screw Starfleet's rules. We're going to go full day Earth stood still on this. And he just basically brings Spock out as an alien and says, "Hey, take me to your leader," which is the line from A Day the Earth Stood Still. So quick callback there, goes to essentially what I think is the president of this country or this world or whatever. And she basically doesn't want to hear any of it because she wants to blow people up with her cool new bomb. And
to be fair, if you got a bomb, you'd want to use it.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the problem with bombs, honestly. So so then she says something about the person with the biggest stick wins, and then he brings a really fun scene where Enterprise comes down into atmosphere and says, "Well, I got the biggest stick, so you guys are going to negotiate." So what do you guys, I just hit a huge swath, but not a ton happens there other than, some action. What do you guys think about that whole portion of the show?
Oh,
I've been talking for
so that whole portion of the show, I thought, okay, like
it's your standard like away team hijinks episode,
yeah,
right?
it just, I guess. I mean, it was cool, I guess. Spock, your ears, this thing is not gonna work.
Well,
and then
here's
the
the thing.
chase scene on the ship was, oh my god, like it was cool, it was funny,
We have now set up this ensemble cast. We need a little time. So, talk about, I don't know, Smallville, Freak of the Week. We need a little bit of time of a more generic episode to just watch this ensemble cast in a more standard Star Trek setting. Like, go through it and see how they interact with each other and get to know them and how they're different than how, say, a Deep Space Nine away team or a future Enterprise or TNG team might have handled this situation, and even how Pike handles the situation. Pike is always kind of, in Discovery, relied a lot on, say, Michael and other characters, but now he's kind of the big dog, so we just kind of get a sense of all of those things.
But there was one thing though that I was like, because you did mention Pike on Discovery was very, we are not going to break General Order 1.
Yep.
Like,
yep.
And you see the difference between.
Well,
Pike.
And I think that actually plays into this. I think that Pike's biggest thing is this idea of people dying that he has some culpability for. Like, I think we're going to see that over time, that they latched on to this one little line or whatever in the original episode of Star Trek and said, okay, who is Pike? This is Pike. When people die on his watch, he feels responsible, right? And so we do know this about him in Discovery, that he does not want to cross General Order 1. And there's this whole thing with the episode that me and Anthony and you got in a big fight about, right? with what is it, the church or that weird, I don't know, the
Yeah,
village
the
planet essentially.
World War III episode.
Yeah. And so we do know this about him, but here we are in this moment, and like the one thing that I think Pike really feels, he's the son of a preacher, right? Like he feels the weight of those souls on his heart, essentially.
I think that once there was I think it did two things. I think once there was like, oh, we caused this. Like we already
That's the difference maker, right? Because that creates
Yeah.
the culpability.
right. And so it's already broken, right? We've
Yep.
already introduced weapons and technology to them that they
Yep.
were not prepared. They didn't evolve to be able to unhandle. Um,
I think without that
I think
culpability, his conscience is clean.
I think it also let anti-Discovery people go, look, see, Discovery still messing people up even if they left. like I think that it let them do that too. But yeah, I think when he took that, and I think that I think other captains would have handled that differently, but not as effectively. You know what I mean? Like even Picard, who's a diplomat, I think couldn't have. He would give a speech, but where they were at now, they wouldn't been able to hear him, and then we would have left the planet and been like, "Well, what do you think is going to happen?" You know what I mean? Like we would have left the planet.
I agree.
And things
He
like
would have
that.
given a speech similar to the speech probably that we see Pike give, but then kind of like left it and been like, yeah.
Kirk or Cisco might have been a little bit more aggressive in whatever they did to solve the situation or whatever.
Kirk would have been like, okay, which ones are the bad guys? We'll take them out for you.
Take them out. Like, now there's no reason. There's no reason to destroy your planet because we've already subjugated your enemies. Have fun. Like
Lorca would have
to get
just let
the prime
everybody
directive.
kill everybody, because that's why I like him. It's none of my business.
Lorca would have been like, well, now we have a new planet, a rich planet for the Federation. But yeah, so, and I like the visuals they gave because we've seen very little of World War III in Star Trek. So we've heard about it, and it's almost like they're Time Lord wars in a way of this, or Holy Terror during the Unification Wars. Like this is like, it was a bad time to be on Earth, which also makes it really weird in Picard where a character would stay knowing World War III is like a couple of years away. But whatever.
It's like 400 years though. He was gonna die by the time it came up.
No. World War III in the end of Picard season 2 was like a couple of years away. Like a couple of months, Cisco and Bashir get stuck there and they get put into concentration cities, not camps.
No, it's the same month. That's why I'm confused by that whole thing.
Oh, wow.
They literally are there in the same month that is happening.
Oh,
Anyway.
it's the same month. All right,
It's the same month and one city away. They're in San Francisco, and Bashir and them are in LA or whatever. No, I got it reversed. They were in LA, and Bashir and them are in San Francisco, right?
Yeah. So it would be like you're in Japan in 1938, like in Hiroshima. You know what I mean? Like it'd be really, like.
How about you and your son come with me instead? Because we might be okay, but your son is like screwed, and his children are really screwed.
And again, there's a writing device for that. Be like, hey, we looked at the historical records; they die in like 2 years. Like,
yeah.
Oh. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. What was it going on?
You're talking about his speech.
We are
different
captains.
That was a very good visual medium to show, because imagine if you could.
I got some friends who were upset that they showed the
really?
January 6th riot.
I mean,
I do your friends.
I mean, DS9 predicted entertainment centers, right? So I mean,
I'm not saying I'm in that camp. I'm just saying I know some people.
Are those friends, Patrick? Friends?
I know people. That's all I'm saying.
But no. To just talk about everything Patrick had talked about. Yes. I thought the end. Okay, so the beaming into Spock thing was like, okay, no, come on, like that's the passcode thing that every hacker does in every hacker movie, or like anytime you're trying to get past the security. That's that and I guess that's the Star Trek way of doing
Oh,
it.
it was super tropey. It was
And I
super
was like,
tropey.
yeah, get the. I really was because again, you did all of that for literally a minute. You could have the tension because we knew they were gonna make it.
Here's
so
what I like about
I
it.
didn't buy the
So
tension.
I hear what you're saying, but here's what I like about it. And I agree. It's 100% a trope. It was a team effort to solve it. That's what I like about it.
The tension still because team effort, go team, but that scene, the tension, all of that just wasn't. That was to build tension.
Oh, we knew he was gonna pass. This episode is more tropey. I agree, especially
Very
than the next
basic.
episode. Yeah, but again, I think you gotta. For so many shows, I wish the first episode was more basic. I wish I could get a first few episodes to set.
Shits. Excuse my French.
And I get that. Like, that's the modern mindset. But, like, sometimes you got to set what standard is before you move off the standard, right? That's what I'm saying with, like, Smallville. You need, like, Freak of the Week for the first season so that when you're not doing that anymore, it feels like it's different. Or, like, I've often wished, like, we could have gotten 2 episodes before we get into the story of Jessica Jones just to, like, get Jessica Jones's, like, normal life for a little bit, right? Before we get into the big meta story.
So I often look at it like this. There's certain characters that you have given so much time to breathe before things happen that you could come up with a situation now and you would know how that character would act.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just know because you know the character as almost
Right.
like it's a person. So I get what you're saying, that we've seen this before, right? We've seen most of this stuff before in some kind of form.
Mhm.
But I think the point was for us to get to know the characters, right?
Yep.
I think, and in that, I think it did its job, and I was entertained with some of the tropes. You know, sometimes tropes are great if they're done okay, or they're done well, extremely well. This was it offensive? Was it offensive? The beaming in of the thing was a lot.
You could have done without comedy tropes.
That was another scene where I was like, Anthony is not going to like this.
You could have done without some of the tropes, and you could have definitely done without that particular one. So
Also, you're in a half a millennium more advanced ship. You couldn't just hack their system or something, or take control, or fry their system. Like there was
because
a bunch of other ways
that would be too obvious.
Yeah,
It was just fun to see Nurse Chapel running around. That's all I'm trying to say. Trying
Well,
to
then have her
solve
chase-
2 problems
have
at once.
No, then have her chase the guy, and then have.
I look forward to more
science officer do
hijinks
something
with
else,
Nurse
or
Chapel.
an engineer do something else.
but we wanted to see them have fun.
Yep.
I'm curious. Well, I like the doctor. Like I really.
Yeah,
You know what? For
me
some
too.
reason, doctors are like the
Doctor
staple of.
isn't he the doctor from the first original?
There was a black doctor there. I can't remember what his name was.
I think
though.
that's
You know what
him.
I mean?
I
It's
think
supposed to be the same character.
yeah, I think that's the same character, Dr. Mbenga. I think that's the same character.
Oh,
Well, I like his portrayal. He's very I don't know. I feel like I don't know what his you do. Anybody know his background? Like what
Yeah.
the
Well,
huh?
the actor is Nigerian. I don't know Mbenga's character.
I wanted to say that, but yeah, I want to say race. You know, I like to point out.
No. I don't know Mbenga's like, I know Horace Kenyon.
Okay. But he had a very
I don't-
laid back kind of drawl about how he went about. I don't know. It was a really nice character, like personality type of thing to get introduced to him. And I think I don't think there's a doctor I haven't liked on a Star Trek. I'm trying to think. Who was the Star Trek? Who's the doctor in Enterprise?
Crusher?
Enterprise.
Oh, in Enterprise.
He's such a great character.
I did like that doctor too. I forget his name too.
He's one of
Mo
the best
should
characters
know.
in the
Mo's the
series.
Enterprise fan.
Yeah, I'm blanking.
I agree. I think Bashir is actually the weakest doctor, and he's still good.
And he's still good. And he's still.
But I think he's the weakest
Fun fact: did you know Bashir tried out to be Cisco?
They lit blackface still back then, like that. All right, sorry.
Oh,
No.
Dr. Funk?
Dr. Pox,
Phlox or something?
Dr. Phlox,
Yeah.
Dr. Phlox.
Yeah.
Best character on Enterprise. By far, I would watch that guy in anything. That's that character.
I like Travis. I don't know what you're talking about.
All right. Well,
I
moving
like
on.
I like Travis.
So
I like
then
Travis
we
too.
see
I like
peace
Travis.
talks going on, and it's not going super well. Yes. And
You're
then,
with that.
all right. Sorry, I didn't know we already did that. Well, then they
Yeah,
go
'cause-
back up to the ship. Everything is basically solved in a more episodic nature, like old school Star Trek. But with some probably closer to Deep Space Nine, where there's a little bit of continuity clearly being set up. But Deep Space Nine was one of the first shows to like actually have continuity. So then after that, we have basically Sam Kirk show up as Spock's assistant.
What a twist!
I love it.
Kirk.
I love it.
And as a Star Trek geek, I was kind of disappointed in myself. I didn't realize that Kirk had a brother in the original series that showed up dead.
He dies in one of the episodes, and he's a masterful scientist, so it's perfect. And I think there could be some fun stuff where we're kind of setting up Spock. He's gonna have my hope, I guess, is that Spock has a more like businessy relationship with Sam, right?
Mhm.
But it sets up the relationship that he'll eventually have with our Kirk, right? Or
I hope he
the
dies.
Captain Kirk. Sam does die.
Yeah. No,
He
no,
does
no.
die.
He dies.
I know.
Mission
I hope he-
accomplished.
I hope he dies. In like
Yeah.
I hope he dies.
He
in like
dies,
2
and the
episodes.
body is played by
No.
what's it?
No.
by-
I'm saying I hope he dies in like 2 episodes.
By who? The body's played by who?
By the guy who plays Kirk. Why can't I think of his name suddenly? William Shatner.
William Shatner?
It's just with a mustache.
Oh.
It's William
With a
Shatner with a
mustache?
mustache. That's why he has a mustache.
Get out.
His brother is William Shatner with a mustache. Which they could go the other way here, where they could have our like Captain Kirk show up at some point and have the actor plays Sam Kirk just
Kirk.
shaved, and it could be.
Oh, I did think about that. That Nurse Chapel should have also been. Oh, who's the other character Nurse Chapel should have been? Because the actress played both of them. Oh, I'm blanking.
Oh, you're right. She does play 2 characters or something. I don't remember who though. You're right.
Anyway, but I thought they could have been. I thought that
They had
they
no
could have been
budget.
twins. Right. You know what's funny is that they brought Spock, who never mentioned siblings. They brought a brother and a sister out. Kirk, who actually they showed his brother's body, never comes up again in any of the prequel materials as a kid. None of that stuff. That's crazy.
I like, what I like too is I feel like we're already getting to know some of the small, like, all right, Nurse Chapel maybe isn't a smaller character, but I actually really like the beaming, the chief guy, the O'Brien of this ship.
Kyle.
Because he was like, you can't do that. That's not going to work. And they're like, you're going to make it work. And he's like,
Look, that's the motivation of an insecure kid among like a bunch of adults. He just figures it out because it's like when he's like, do this, and the people telling him to do it have no idea, even if it can be done, but you're telling this kid to do it, and so he's gonna like, oh, no, the kid did it. Oh, look at that.
Yep.
Young folks, this is a lesson. When they tell you something and don't give you actual directions how to do it, because they don't know how to do it themselves.
All right. So second episode, I haven't watched that. I haven't watched that more recently. So you got to do the rundown.
Oh man. Well, second episode, Children of the Comet. I thought this was a very interesting episode.
I loved it. I love this episode.
I liked the first episode. I had more problems with this episode than I did with the first one.
Oh, interesting. I had
And
way
I
more problems
think-
with the first episode than the second episode.
No, I thought the first episode, as you said, was tropey, was very campy, was very Star Trekky, and this one I just thought.
Interesting.
Anyways, Children of the Comet. So
I'm
apparently
in the middle of both of you on this.
So
All right.
Enterprise is tracking a comet that is set that is going for what they know is going past the planet, and then they do the math, and now it's gonna hit the planet, and they have about 24 hours or a couple of hours to find a way that the comet doesn't run into the planet and destroy.
We know about the comet before that. We don't know about the comet though
No.
before the dinner party,
Yeah,
right?
it opens
dinner
with Pike. No, not with Pike. Uhura.
Yeah,
doing
Ahura
this-
walking in her dress uniform, to
and
the
then
dinner party.
doing the whole Stardate thingy, like, and giving
Oh.
you what we're doing. Yeah, she
Okay.
she opens up with a mission, and this is what
Nice.
we're doing. Yeah, and then
And she gets pranked.
she gets pranked. and this is
And it's a nice Star Trek harmless
It is.
prank too.
But we're starting to see some of the problems I had with. Again, I think you mentioned it, where she seems really sure about what she wants to do, or she seems really excited about what she wants to do, and it's like, I'm not sure this is what I want to do in episode 2.
Yeah, there was a discontinuity there, a big one, really, if you look at episode 1.
And here's what I'm gonna say. This might be a little controversial, and I don't think I've ever said anything like this on the show before. I think they did it so the white men on the show could be like the heroes. Oh no, you have to figure out what. Yeah, especially with Spock at the end of it. Like, I think she was very capable of figuring out herself what she needed to do. They set her up as this super intelligent woman, and who's very capable, right? Again, super intelligent people can have doubts. They can
sure.
feel.
Well,
But
it's her first day on the job. Like, you're gonna have a lot of doubts.
So
yeah, I mean, basically.
Well,
I mean,
first day.
it's her first away team, for
yeah.
example. She says, like, I've never been on an away team before.
So I see what you're doing. I see why you would see that, right? And I'm not dismissing that. But I think that it's okay. It's okay that someone that's capable and a minority and of a different gender to look at people with more experience, even if you're smarter, even if you're a smarter person. If you ever mentor kids or mentor somebody or work with somebody that you could tell is just smarter than you. You just know, but you just know how this thing works. You know what I mean? You have more experience with this track. And as we get older, there's going to be people coming up that's going to have all sorts of ideas that we can't comprehend and things like that. Who, regardless of gender, still might need, like, hey, it's okay. I felt that way too. Hey, it's okay. You know, it's almost like, remember, y'all both watched all Lower Decks, right? Remember when the cyborg guy kept switching jobs, and there was one point he was in security, and he was like, "Hey, Papa Bear, I don't think this is right for me." And he's like, "So you came down here and just went around. Now you want to leave? Well, great. I hope you find what you needed." And like, it was such a great Star Trek moment of like another show would have been, and people were just happy that he was exploring and figuring out who he was. And it didn't matter that the guy was a white Bajoran male, and he was I'm thinking he's black or Latino. I don't know.
Yeah,
he's a person of this person Latino. Like, it was just a mentoring moment. It was a mentoring moment because being smart is only half the battle. There's wisdom, there's experience. There's not even half the battle. Wisdom, see how smart I am. There's wisdom, experience, and things like that. And so they did a good job of showing, like, I hear you spoke 12 languages. 37. I got on this ship and I didn't even want to. You ever meet somebody who something comes so easy to them they don't even try?
Yeah, I think she hurt everybody's feelings there, right? Like,
yeah, like, I busted my butt to get here, because a lot of them probably did. A lot of them probably was stayed up all night. But some things come easier to certain people, where something like confidence or social skills or something else might not come that easy. You know what I mean? Or some people are very charismatic. Pike is a high social intelligence. Pike has a high social intelligence, and I think in Discovery, he had pointed out that he had trouble with certain types of math or whatever, right? We all have the non-intelligence theory, and I think that I hope, if I'm seeing this right, I think you're actually using some of that in this show. But yeah, that's where I came from, Mo. But I'm not dismissing. I'm not dismissing what you felt and when you saw it either.
Right. I respect that. We're not always gonna have the same opinions on the same thing. I just thought it was very, like, I've worked with people, right? And the reason I saw it that way is because I've worked with people who think you always have to, like, no, like, okay, I can figure this out. You know, I'll eventually figure it out. I appreciate your help, but I'll eventually figure it out. And I just thought, you know, the I saw what I saw, and I just immediately like shut off because I was like, okay, this rubbed me the wrong way. But everything else in the episode was pretty cool, you know. So fine. I think the first thing they try to do to
I was super excited that she was East African. That was what I was excited.
Of course
about.
you were. Of course, I was like Patrick.
I was super thrilled.
As soon as she was humming that tune, and
I was so excited.
He said Kenyan.
Maybe Ahora's always been Nigerian. She probably has, but I don't think I realized that. And so maybe because I always hear her in the context of the actress and not the character as like the first African American, right?
Yes, that's what it is.
So, and that's probably why, but I did not realize that the character was Nigerian. So I was super excited.
Kenyan.
Or sorry, why did I say Nigerian? Because we were talking about the other character. Yes, Kenyan.
Right.
I knew that in my mind or heart, but I didn't say that.
As soon as she hummed that, and Pike was like, "Well, I've been to Africa," which is also a very. Anyways,
Pike is Patrick. In there. He's like, I know that too. I fell asleep to that. I fell asleep to that too. I saw that. I feel the warm embrace of Mother Africa.
No, as soon as that happened, I was in my mind. I was like, "Yo, Patrick is gonna be like this." First of all, East African, yes, for the win, because
there's a lot of Nigerian.
Patrick swears he's East African, but
no, it's not that. I just there's a character in Halo.
Don't.
I was kidding.
Don't do that to him. Don't do that.
No, I was kidding. I love Patrick, and I love hearing his stories. I really do. It's an African thing where we don't really care. Well,
East Africans deserve heroes. That's all I'm gonna say.
No, it's a Nigerian thing where I'll break this down to you for really quick. Where like it's Nigeria and then the rest of Africa.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, I know.
Then a Nigerian girl, and then whatever you are. If you're Igbo, it's Igbo, and it's the rest of the other one.
And it's
if
the rest. Yeah,
it's the rest of the other.
Really
It's that. I remember once I was talking to this girl. We talked to this other guy. That was like, oh, you ain't say hi. He's like, no. For people he's from, if we say if it's a snake and it's them, it's better to kill them than the snake. I was like, God. Yeah. So I'm just
it's just I revert to that sometimes, and I did on this episode, especially when
don't revert to it.
That came up. But
can I tell you my problem with Ahura though? I do have a problem with Ahura.
Okay.
And it's not necessarily with her. I saw a lot of fan sites put up and they're like, "Oh, look at her and look at her. See, they got somebody that just favors her so much." And I was like, "What? Well,
somebody that what?"
So a lot of fan sites have been saying that she favors Nicole. What am I saying? Original horror actress name. Why am I blanking on names today? Nichelle.
Mm-hmm.
That she favors her, and I was like, no, she doesn't. Like, is this like race blindness where you think everybody looks alike? Like,
blind people
do y'all think she favors her?
her?
I don't think she favors her, and that's okay.
No, she does not. No, well, not to me. Well, you know, I honestly think all black people do not look alike, but you know,
Nichelle Nichols. Yep.
Patrick got real quiet. All right, moving on.
I'm leaving you guys. I know where I can speak and where I am just happy to listen. And I mean, I just learned. Like, I honestly, this is a good example. It did not hit me the way it hit you, Mo, and so hearing your experience is helpful for me. So,
well, I mean, again, like I said, it's something that I've never said on the show before, and any episode of any show that we've done. You know, I'm like, no, but I just had a problem with the fact that they just always had to be like it just seemed to me like, again, it could have been very innocent,
and that explains why you felt the way you did later on in the episode too, which I guess we'll get to. So
yes, so first try to move the comet they sent. What was it? It was torpedoes?
Yeah, they like exactly phaser. No, they used like a phaser or something, right?
Yeah,
right. Yep.
They fired it and they found it has a force field. Why does a comet have a force field? So they beam down to it. Obviously, they beam the linguistics expert, science officer, security officer, and the science officers.
So I don't know. Maybe this played into what you were talking about, but I love that this was her first away mission, and that she was nervous about it. That she was like not, like that's scary shit, man. If I was on my first away mission, I would be scared. Like I would be scared.
This is someone who
there's a lot of red shirt bodies littering planets.
and this is someone I believe I'm 100% there with you. This is also someone who, at the beginning of the episode, was like, I don't know if this is what I want to do.
And she's a linguistics person. Like my wife has a degree in linguistics. There's a big gap between being really into linguistics and like beaming down to an alien. Those aren't always the same personality types, right? That's all I'm saying.
Right. So all four of them on the So I think Anthony or Patrick mentioned this, that we have our away team at this point. And we have two away team stand and then everyone else they're gonna mix in with the rest of them. Spock
based on skill.
So
the Kirk brother are apparently too stupid to live. Because
that's why I'm like, he has to die like in an episode. Like, I don't care anymore. Like, and I think it's kind of funny that what happened to him happened, because that almost feels very Kirky. That feels very. So? I thought that was a Kirk thing to do, be very brash, or maybe that's Kelvin, timeline, Chris Pine-Kirk.
Yeah, no, I agree. You could see the same parents. They're the same parents.
Well, I think Kirk had almost a daredevilish nature. This was just stupid and reckless with no real outcome point. Like, I want to touch.
But you know what? I liked. All right, I liked that there have been previous characters in previous shows that have acted recklessly without consequence, and so I liked that there was consequence.
Oh, what's the Tim Allen Star Trek movie?
Galaxy.
Galaxy Force or Galaxy. Yeah.
Galaxy Quest. Galaxy Quest.
Yeah.
I've been seeing people put up memes of the new crew member with the mustache and this Kirk. They both just there to die.
I mean, he has to wear the mustache. If he shaves it off, he's Kirk. So
I would actually absolutely die if they shaved the mustache and introduce him as James Tiberius Kirk.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Right. What if this Kirk commits a crime and there never was a James Kirk?
Plot twist. Mark this down, because maybe in 3 seasons or whatever we're gonna need to come back here.
No, he's dying.
Yeah, that's why the original series Kirk is surprised. Is like, that's
I kind of hope they can lay off of it. Like in the same way that did we really need Lois to show up in Smallville? Like, we don't need James Kirk. We don't need James Kirk. Let's just run with Sam. That's great. They don't need it.
I don't need any other crew people. Like, maybe if you want to, like, near the end of whatever the series run is, you can introduce an Ensign Scotty or some stuff. But let this crew be its own crew. Let this crew be
at
its
least
own
for a
crew.
time, for sure. Yep.
Yeah.
You know what I think?
So Wesley Crusher
because they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with that movie, Trek 4. I think we're going to. That might bleed into, and we might end up getting this crew transitioning character by character into the actual Kirk Enterprise. Mark my words. By 3rd season,
all right, we'll see.
We're gonna see some Enterprise, some TOS characters coming here. Anyways, so we're beamed onto the comet, and now communication is cut off because Kirk, dumbass, touched the egg. I call it an egg.
Yeah, it's totally an egg.
Okay, cool. The golden egg, and now the Watchers, what were they called?
I don't know, the crazy religious people.
The space evangelicals. They come up and they pretty much tell us, hey, you catch the comet because this is divine and it's a bringer of life. But if the comet has decided it wants to kill people, shit, That's just what the comet wants to do. If the comet is gonna die when it kills people, comet gonna die. Like
People die every day, B. Yeah.
literally. And I thought again, this is where I really like Christopher Pike. Yes, this is where I really like Anson Mount and as Christopher Pike, where it's like, yo, like he tries to not swindle, but he tries to kind of like sweet talk, and he does.
He's great. He's great. Well, also, and I wish they had actually brought it up, but maybe that would have been too on the nose. It probably would have been too on the nose, but he's the son of a preacher. He he knows these religious people.
and religion in Star Trek has always been a funny topic, right?
Mhm.
Because essentially it's a society of atheists, right? Or some form of atheism. For the most part. Like individual other species might have their religious beliefs, but the Federation, Earth seems like science is what they go by for the most part. Like they consider everything else the Dark Age, especially from like Picard's speeches. But this early time, we know there was a chapel on the original Enterprise and stuff like that. So we still feel like this is early enough where religion still plays a role.
Yeah.
And the one thing I would have liked if the aliens had a very strong defense system on the asteroid, but they weren't technologically so superior to the Enterprise. You know what I mean? So like, it was more of a moral thing of like, how do we respect their beliefs? We blow up their temple or whatever.
That is interesting.
You know,
By them being more technologically powerful, it took away some of the moral making the hard decision. Whereas if they were even technologically weaker, oh well, we could just blast these guys and deal with this, right? So it's a good point.
What if they lived on the asteroid and they refused to deviate its course? and they're like, all right, do we destroy these people to save these people? Do we, you know what I mean? And I figure
they did remind me of those crazy people from Parks and Recreation. Sorry, go on.
Oh yeah. The pandemic, I actually watched all of Parks and Rec, so I get that reference now.
Nice.
So still not watched The Office though. But yeah, so I figured I thought that was kind of Star Trek had a really good history of presenting problems that might parallel stuff we have in our world. I can't remember if it was TNG or DS9. Remember there was these refugees. No, I think it was DS9, and they thought Bajor was their Mecca or their promised land or whatever.
Yep.
And it was like, yeah, and then they were like, no, you can't. And Bajor was like, no, we're struggling right now. The numbers don't work out. What if your crops fail and we gotta support you? That's a lot. You gotta go someplace else. And there was never a clear thing of, because they all said we're a society of farmers. You're going through a famine. We could have helped you. You know what I mean? So it didn't give you a clear who was right, who was wrong, but it's a moral dilemma.
Yeah. So I agree, but that's a minor nitpick thing that they were more powerful. Anyways,
it is.
When we get to Uhura on the thing now, I think you were upset, Mo, probably by the speeches Spock was giving her. Did that feel like he was doing the thing that you were concerned about? Like
he was 100% doing the thing. And I get she's young.
To me, it looked like she just like really thought she wasn't going to be able to pull it off, right?
I guess she's nervous, but she ended up doing it, and I'm sorry, but to me, nothing Spock said influenced or inspired her. I think she knew.
She even said that was a crappy speech. I think if anything, it just gave her a little bit of.
It relaxed her. Why?
Yeah, it relaxed her.
But why is it okay? Hear me out. This is maybe I'm being I'm using my personal experiences to inform on how I watch this, because why is it that someone who's very capable of doing what they do, like why is it that and why do you have to do that? Like she's still a capable person.
I don't think she thought she was capable, and Spock did think she was capable.
I don't know. I thought she was she was still capable. She was nervous. Go ahead.
I think you're yes, she had the goods, right? She did it. So
we know she had the goods.
Right. But sometimes you need people, especially you gotta think this is a military hierarchy. The third in command of this ship, I'm assuming Spock's rank is like third in command, that's why you look up to, right? They went through the process you have to get to. Just like you would look at a a frat brother who went through the process, or somebody in your company, or someone in your field that's done a lot of things. She shouldn't be too overconfident. She's a rookie. She just came into space to do this stuff. Like I think I liked her more because she wasn't perfect. You know what I mean? Like, you have the ability, you have the aptitudes, but you're still drawing it out. You're still a rookie. You're not a seasoned vet. You're not a seasoned officer.
And I think that's my
Yeah.
problem with this, because what is wrong with a rookie being confident? What is wrong with the rookie absolutely
That's not her
100%
character, though.
knowing?
There's
It's
nothing
like-
wrong with that.
I
That's
get
a
that,
different character.
but that's
It's also not as interesting to me.
That's the
Also,
problem.
we saw the
Hold on,
rookie
hold on.
who
That's-
was
that's the-
overconfident. He touched the egg, and it didn't go so well for
But
him.
that's the problem, though, is because, again, in episode 1, she wasn't giving rookie vibes. I guess maybe because now you throw in a planet to humble her. I guess that's what you do.
She did still give rookie vibes because she's like, "This is cool," right?
But
Like,
then you
she's
throw in
never.
a planet to humble her. I thought that was whatever. But you know what?
I
Everyone
didn't think
has
it
their
was
own-
humbling her
You thought it
though.
was the Punisher? You think it was the Punisher?
No, not to punish her. I don't think whatever happened on there was to punish her. I think it may have been the writing was, let's humble this character who's smart and capable. Let's just bring her down to a level where she's let's paint her as the rookie that she is. Period. I thought that was what it was. But
Well, she's
again,
not a fully formed character yet. Don't you want to see the growth of her becoming that?
okay, you can still grow as a character. You can still grow as a character, but you are still very capable and you can still do your job.
But she did her job.
Okay. That's fine.
I think
Again, I feel like I'm using my
I
personal
feel like you
experiences.
just what I got more about her is that it made me, seeing her in this light and seeing her in the Kelvin universe made me sad to think of her in TOS. That's what I get out of it. Because they don't use her at all in TOS, right? So you have this capable character that isn't used if we keep the other stories canon, 100% canon.
The
She
Kelvin
gets used
universe-
more in the movies, finally, but in the
Yeah.
show for sure.
I think, like, I don't want to say, I do see your point. I do see your point that you felt like she had to be coddled to do her job, right?
Yes.
Um,
And again, thanks for bringing the Kelvin universe up, because in the Kelvin universe, there's no point, where she is brought, like she's throttled down, and it could be because you have Zoe Saldana playing her in the Kelvin universe, so that's a big name actress. So you're not, this person is going to shine, and you have a lesser known person playing her now. So I guess you have to, and it's a show versus a movie. I guess that's where that is. But again, because
the movie wanted them all formed. The movie,
that's what I was going to say.
Everybody's in their roles.
My most recent knowledge of her is from the movie. And again,
and even though they were supposed to be rookies and ensigns and all that stuff, like at the end of the movie, Kirk is made captain after his first mission into space, pretty much, and everybody's in where they classically were, and so we skipped the part where they worked getting to those positions. Riker wasn't always Riker. Picard wasn't always Picard. Kirk wasn't
Riker
always Kirk.
Didn't always
put his leg up in front of, have his manhood wafting over Wesley and
he didn't always do
David's
the he didn't always do the thing.
No.
Yeah.
Again, it's a minor problem. Don't
No,
let
it's I'm curious.
But it was
I
a
just
problem
looked up
that-
the director is actually Croatian, so that's interesting.
it was a problem that I had. Other than that, I thought the use of science and the music you actually saw
That was cool.
a
I love that.
linguist doing something, whether it was using musical notes and deciphering language through music. I thought that was a really cool, interesting
I love
episode.
that. That's Star Trek the way I
felt
love it.
very hold on, it felt very disco to me though, because disco last season they used math to solve the problem, like literally use math to solve the problem.
Sure, that's great.
TNT. And I was
Good
like,
job, Disco.
okay, that's literally, that's what that felt like to me. and then it made me. I was like, oh, because they did this and Disco did it, I like it now, and that's
Yeah,
that's why
no,
I was good on it.
well, but I think lots of Star Trek does that, and Disco
Yeah,
had
that-
moments where it did that was really cool. Like
Yeah,
I remember, I mean, just figuring out the mycelial network was really cool. So I'm not saying Disco didn't ever have moments like that.
Lord.
But Trek has
I
used
mean,
math to solve problems a lot. Like a
so
lot.
yeah,
No,
exactly.
they really like went into that math thing to create language, and I loved seeing it here and in the music to create language. And
One thing
again,
that also
Go ahead.
happens here, though, that I wanted to touch on was we see the reversal of what we talked about in the episode 1, where we see our instinctive character basically shut down and unable to do anything. The danger sense is essentially taken over for her,
Mhm.
right? And Spock is now, his logical side is actually helping the
Oh,
situation on
that's
some.
the argument you wanted to make.
Yeah. To
Okay.
some capacity, Spock is actually like he's figuring out the numbers and figuring out, all right, like Uhura is our hope. Like, how can I support her endeavor? Whereas, what's her name? Why
Leon.
can't I think of her name? La'an she's basically given up, right? If I remember correctly, like she kind of just.
I don't know if she given up. She was just very like, "Yo, what are we gonna do here?"
I don't remember her being very helpful.
No, she
So,
wasn't, because she was basically
yeah.
taking care of stupid Kirk over there.
Whereas Spock is like literally out of his. I think Spock knows that he's the worst possible choice of anybody to give a pep speech.
No,
Like
he
he
is.
literally knows
He
he's
is,
the
he
worst
is.
possible choice, but he's also like, I have to do this because I need to, like, she's our hope, right?
Yeah, I know that in the cage, Spock showed emotion, right? Like he smiled a couple times and things like that. I know in the original series, Spock he showed emotion every once in a while. Like the writers went out their way to get him some extreme thing to show happiness or anger or something like that, right? If we're showing a Spock that wants to get married and integrate into Vulcan society, I think you're being a little too loose with his emotions in this.
This is something that I just know is going to happen. So something that I know is going to happen that you are not going to like, Anthony, is that in the old original series, we start with a Spock who is very Vulcan and watch him progress because of Kirk into his human side. And there's just no way they're not also going to explore that in this show with him. There's no way they're going to leave him super Vulcan to start with this show and then like not also explore that same trajectory. And I think you just got to like let it go, essentially. Because to not do that would make Spock a very static character in this show.
I don't think so, because you could write Tuvok very interesting for Voyager. For like Tuvok was one of the interesting part of Voyager. I think there's a way to do that. You have Tuvok, you have Data, you have these things that go on. I think a more interesting story would be, so we know he showed emotion in the cage, and they've added this Burnham piece to it. Is it maybe some trauma, or maybe some event of him not losing something he wanted, or maybe the connection of his bride or whatever forces him even further down to prove that he's more Vulcan than anybody else.
And they might do that. I don't know, but obviously the natural tendency is one to start him Vulcan, right, and make him more human over time. But they could go the other way. That would be interesting.
So you think? So what you're saying is, Anthony, they're gonna regress him?
Maybe
right?
Sam Kirk will grate on his nerves so much that he.
Well, I don't know.
So it'd be funny because you have one brother who makes him more Vulcan and another brother that makes him more human. I love it.
It could be like Spock's imprinted on you, and Puff Far's coming up. I think you need to hide. What? He's imprinted on you. He's just something about your mustache. I'm James. I think that you're right. If that happens, I don't know how I'm gonna feel about that. That's gonna be a major, because I don't like.
I know it will be.
When you do things over again, it already happens in the characters. Like there's already a point in the character's art.
But we haven't seen it.
Or don't bother.
I mean,
or don't bother.
I agree, but at the same time, I love Trek, and I can't really sit through a full season of original series. Like, I can watch an episode here and there, but like, I just can't do it. And
I
so
also. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm okay with us going through that process again in a modern way.
I also don't think that it's regression that you guys are seeing. I think I think that what Spock really got to when he got to TNG was balance, right? He learned to accept both
Yeah,
sides
yeah.
and find a balance. And so I feel like he went to one extreme at another time and he goes to another extreme another time. And I think when we see him in the original series, he's going to the extreme of I will be the perfect Vulcan. Because by time of TNG, Spock is the standard for Vulcans, which is really odd compared to like how he was treated when he was a kid, right?
Yeah.
So I think like our own personal lives, when we have conflicting natures or conflicting upbringings or conflicting, ideologies, it's the balance. It's almost like the Theon Greyjoy thing. You don't have to give him up. You're a Greyjoy, and you're a Stark. You don't have to choose. You're a Greyjoy, and you're a Stark. They're both with you. And when you finally accept yourself and accept who you are, and that also takes age, right? When you're younger, you're still trying to find out who you are. You might be trying to fit in with certain people, and as you get older, hopefully, you start to mature to think like, you know what? This is who I am. This is who I am, and I think that's what we see later on. So I don't think it's a regression either way. I think it's him finding his balance.
No. I think my question to you, Anthony, was: is he going to regress? Like, I don't say regress. Is he okay?
Regress is the wrong word for sure.
Yeah, it's the wrong word. Is he going to remain Vulcan on this show for the purpose of James Tiberius, or to both of you guys actually, or are they going to play with the Vulcan human thing? And are they going to give him?
I think they're not going to be able to help themselves. In other words, they're going because he is, on a crew of a bunch of humans, and because one thing Star Trek shows love is these aliens finding humanity, essentially. I mean, it would be cool if they reversed that a bit. I think Anthony hit on something that's a cool idea, but my gut tells me that we're just going to watch him just like we did in this episode where he like learns about levity in bad situations, right? Being a human element. I think those sorts of moments are going to continue through this show and not the reverse.
And at the end of this series, we'll get some throwaway line of what Spock is going to be the way he is.
I mean, yeah, maybe something happens that he's like, actually, humanity is a bunch of morons, and I'm going full in Vulcan at the end of this show when we get there, and then it works, right?
Okay. Well, again, they figure out how to musically talk to the asteroid. Now the asteroid has dropped this force field. They're back on the Enterprise. And the church people are mad. Obviously, you mess with them. Sorry. I don't remember their shepherds, right? Shepherds?
I might have to go here shortly. There's some stuff going on with my family. Sorry.
Okay. Anthony and I can anchor this. Okay. The shepherds are angry and they're like, hey, you guys, we told you not to touch the asteroid. You did, and now we're gonna kill you or destroy you. And I like how Pike ended up handling that. Hey, we're gonna fly to the front of this, and that way they can't touch us. They can't shoot the asteroid. They can't, if they have to shoot us, they're gonna shoot the asteroid. And of course, they went to their ace pilot, who came over. Go ahead.
That was interesting to see them use their environment in a way we don't typically see. They didn't want to risk touch their own ground. Especially because to go soon. I was like, I didn't really understand what Spock was doing with the plane. It's been a while since I've seen it. I only watched it once, but I didn't really get what Spock was doing. Like, what part of the plan was that? Like,
I think he was supposed to, because they figured out there was ice in front of, connected to the asteroid, and if you broke it off because of the weight distribution, the asteroid was gonna miss the planet, and the ice was just gonna break off and ice into the planet. And apparently, I think that's what the episode ended up playing with was Destiny. Was just right.
Yeah, I think they alluded to that at the end where it was like, were you always meant to affect the comet or were you not? And the guy kind of gloated over him, like, see, Captain, I told you though, it all works out wherever the comet wishes, and
Right.
things like that.
That was fluke. It was fluke. It was 100% fluke.
So out of the 5 episodes that I've seen in the future before I travel back to impart these
I would like
these
to
the knowledge on there. There was only one episode that I was like, and this wasn't really it. This was like more still an intro because also I give a lot of slack to first season Star Treks. You know what I mean? Like I give a lot of leeway because there typically isn't smooth sailing, as it were, in the first season of like TNG's first season was awful. DS9 had to find its footing. Some people say it didn't find its footing until season 3, even though it had some great episodes in season 1. Enterprise was still trying to figure out what was going on, and I think maybe when they did kind of fill out what their stride was, it ended too early. Voyager kind of wasted its premise in season 1 a lot, with two enemy crews, a cruise, and how they get along. I think they only dealt with that like once or twice. Or even the Lost in Space theme that they really didn't really fully take advantage of. So it takes a while for a show to find its strides, and this early episode isn't too bad to me. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed seeing the horror get some shine. Man, these captain quarters are lavish nowadays.
No, seriously, like it's different.
I mean, a hibachi grill in my house. What's going on? Yeah.
But I did like the captain quarters. I think again, the show did open up with Pike cooking, and so it would have been remiss if we didn't get him cooking in space, if that makes sense. Like he had to,
his stove was I mean, he had space. Like,
how much do you think that apartment would run in real life? Like an apartment?
Oh man,
$5,000 a month.
At least $5,000 a month, especially since you on prime real estate, the flagship, got that status and whatnot. Right now, because of lower decks, we know there are ensigns at the bottom of the ship, double sharing the same dang bunk like they on a submarine.
Right.
Switch it out, hot, flip it over the mattress. No, there is no mattress. It's a slot.
It's just a slot, man.
Just a slot. Meanwhile, Pike got a whole hibachi grill, a banquet table on his thing, probably 2 levels. I'd be bad. I'd be in my feelings. I'd be in my feelings.
All right, Mo, I can't do Halo now.
Okay,
there's some stuff going on. Do you want to do Halo tomorrow?
Yeah, we can.
Same time.
If we do Halo tomorrow, we have to run 3 then.
3 episodes?
Yeah. Oh, we can skip 1. Really, we can really skip. We can really skip one of those episodes. We
can definitely skip one. I mean, we don't have to skip. We can make that one like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That one's like a 10
minute. Is that the episode just skipping?
The Quan
episode.
Oh my gosh, I don't see how.
Oh gosh, I didn't know Anthony was watching, but
it's crazy because she was such an interesting character.
Yeah, I liked her at the start. That's the thing we keep coming back to is we liked her the first 2 episodes.
Okay, not interesting. I liked her.
The end for me with her is when she threw the temper tantrum. Yeah. When she threw the temper tantrum tied up to that bike, I was like, I'm done with you. I'm done.
I gave her some more, and then
I've been looking for a GIF of that temper tantrum actually.
And then they did the anger thing. They did the your anger. Let's see.
Every time it cuts back to her and the other guy, who I love him because he's been in the film. I don't love him in the show, but I love that he always gets a paycheck.
I love Soren, and I love his character. I don't like his character with her.
Akeem Woodbine. He's been getting the check since I was a kid, and he looks the same. So
he's the dude from Wu-Tang. That's right.
I love his character without her. I love him as a space pirate. I would love to see more.
Yeah, show me that. Show me a Spartan space pirate doing his thing.
Once you put him and her together, he becomes.
Every time they cut to her, I roll my eyes. I'm like, I don't care about any of this. Like I don't.
He's in Fargo. Oh, that guy is a good actor.
Anyways, thank you guys. So yeah, the episode ends with the whole Destiny thing, and it's like, well, And I think they also kind of pose that question to Uhura, like, it's like, wink, wink. You are supposed to be here.
What? Wait.
Wait, Patrick is doing something else. Anyways, it was kind of like a wink, wink, Uhura. You are supposed to be here. Get your validation from Spock that you are supposed to be here.
You know what?
Hated
No,
that.
that's the thing I liked about Spock when he was like, "Look, if you don't think you belong, you need to get the f off." Because this people,
That was fine. That was fine.
That's the thing you give to somebody.
That's it. You should have left it at that. I think Spock coming back later to be like, yeah, you're supposed to be here. I thought that was kind of like, ugh, get out of here.
Hey, look, man. Even though you saved that mustache, motherfucker, I think you should stay. I think you should stay.
That guy,
let him die.
that guy
real
must be
quick.
friends. That guy must be friends with Wu-Tang because he's been in a bunch of their music videos.
Yeah, he's a character actor, and like, so he started off in like Jason Lyric. Not Jason, I don't say he started off, but
That's funny.
he was in a lot of like black films in the 90s.
Yeah,
And like,
no, I'm
so
looking.
he's a character actor that, and
And
so
he
I'm always happy when he gets
he's
the
the
show.
character. He plays the hell out of Soren. I love Soren.
Yeah.
Like,
But he's
Yeah.
pretty much, the guy that plays Hector, every time he shows up in a movie, he's always Hector.
yes,
That's who he is. He's the
but it
same
doesn't
guy.
matter. It's so funny that he is that guy as Soren, and
Oh, he's that
Soren-
guy in Total Recall.
yes,
He's that guy. He's
that guy.
Probably he's that black character actor. Like but I'm glad,
Alright.
like I said, I'm glad. But overall, because we were running on 2 hours now, but overall, I even the things I don't like about the show, I'm happy to discuss and debate and theorize about
Worlds?
what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm glad to like theorize about what this means and what's going to happen.
It's
here
different
and
from old Trek, but it's also similar enough that it feels good. Yeah, it is. There are updates for
it's
sure.
different from
Yeah.
old Trek because it's
There
shiny.
are
It's
updates.
these-
You may
it's
not
old
see them
Trek.
because they're not as dramatic as the updates in the other shows, but there are.
Okay.
There are.
definitely.
So, anyways,
Every
all
time
right.
the other shows are mentioned, Anthony's gonna have something smart.
I
to say.
can't wait to watch more episode. Like, here's how you know. I waited until midnight to watch episode 2. Like, I was like,
Oh, it's
I
midnight for you, so it's 3:00 for me. Well, I'm asleep.
I know,
watch
but
it
I.
at midnight.
You're on
like,
the wrong coast, Mo.
I'm not
on the
doing
wrong
that for
coast.
any other
Wait, you're on
show.
the same coast. What do you?
I
on the
can't even
wrong coast,
remember the
Mo.
last show I did that for.
No,
No. Zack Snyder's Justice League. I'm kidding.
No,
I'm kidding.
definitely not that one. I watched that like a week later.
no. But this one, I'm curious, and a lot of it is because a lot of them have that star power thing. They just have when like I'm just mentioning it because when it came up, when 21 Jump Street came on, it was Johnny Depp. He just had that star power thing. When certain shows come on, he's got that star power, and I feel like they're.
See, I disagree. I think Disco has star power. It just has bad script writers. So that's my opinion.
All right. Well, we don't have time to debate that.
All right,
don't
I'll
have
talk
to-
to you later.
Yeah. Hey,
All right, thank you very much, Anthony. Thank you very much, Patrick. I really enjoy doing this, even though for me, you know what it is. I will watch this show if we can do this every week.
It's the old crew back together.
I will. I mean, this is to be honest. I will watch the show if we can do this every week,
All right.
and maybe I'll end up liking the show.
Apparently, we gotta watch some sneaker movie.
Oh no. All
right,
go ahead.
I will-
I got something to say. So I'm having turn off the light.
Oh, we're not. We